Success Insight shares the stories of the people with passion and drive who make things happen in the world. Here's your host, Howard Fox.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Success Insight podcast. Our guest today is Dr. Jokima Hiller. Now, Jokima, or Jody, as she is known by her friends, is the author of the Red Book, Notes from a First-Year General Manager, and she is the author of 7 Easy Ways to Show Your Employees You Care, a booklet for hotel managers and others, and she is the co-author, along with Jill Woods, of the RevPAR Formula, and I know we'll learn more about what the RevPAR Formula is. Jody's passion has helped her sustain an interesting career in the hospitality industry since the young age of 15. Wow. Her blend of experience and education make her a great resource, and she has held a variety of positions ranging from human resources clerk and assistant to reservation sales manager to front office manager, regional trainer, and general manager. Jody is highly educated, and she actually has a Doctorate in Hospitality Management from Iowa State University, and this has put her in positions to create best practices adopted by hotel colleagues, management, and franchise companies. And just thinking about being in the COVID pandemic that we are all facing today in 2020 and the changes in the hospitality industry because of it makes this conversation so relevant. So, Jody, without further ado, welcome to the Success Insight podcast.
Thank you so very much. I'm excited.
Fantastic. So, Jody, in the introduction, I've shared a lot with our listeners, but I'm wondering if you could maybe provide a little more detail about your background. And I'm actually curious how you got into the hotel industry or the hospitality industry as early as age 15. So share a little bit about that with our listeners.
Sure. Thank you. Well, I am an Army brat, and so my family and I did quite a bit of traveling when I was younger. And I remember leaving the hotel room that we would stay in and then coming back at the end of the day. And I was amazed that the room would be clean, that someone would have made the bed, not understanding that there was an entire department called housekeeping. Or I remember staying at what I know now is a limited service hotel or select service hotel where your breakfast is included in the rate. And I just remember walking out after breakfast going, "Oh, Daddy, you didn't pay for breakfast. We're going to go to jail." Not understanding all of the concepts within a hotel, but it became magic. Things would happen in a hotel that I had no idea who was doing it or what was happening. And so I would probably say as early as about 8 or 9 years old, if someone were to ask me, "Little lady, what do you want to do?" or "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I could at least articulate that I wanted to work in a hotel someplace. I wanted to be a part of that magic. And so when I was 15, I had an opportunity to do a summer internship within the Human Resources office at a local Radisson hotel. And I've never looked back. I was hooked.
Wow, that's fantastic. And I think you are spot on. Many of us don't realize that beyond the individual checking you in and it's somebody magically cleans the room, there's a lot of moving parts and people in the hotel environment, and it grows as the complexity of the hotel property grows as well. Now, when you went to school, so did you go into HR? Did you specifically go into hotel or lodging management? Was there a degree for you at that moment?
Yes, I knew that hotel management was my future, and I went to Purdue University Northwest and received my bachelor's degree in restaurant, hotel, institutional, and tourism management. And from there, I received my master's in business administration. And then I received my doctorate in hospitality from Iowa State. So I knew what I wanted to do, and I set out to do it.
Fantastic. Now, as an expert, because having a PhD, that typically signifies you have some very specialized training in some element within this chosen profession of yours. What was the area of expertise for you as you were pursuing your PhD?
Sure. I really wanted to focus on the managers or the employees within the hotel industry. And so my dissertation, if you will, was about social intelligence, meaning what skill out of all of the skills and abilities a manager could have working in the hospitality industry, which one would I say that they really need in order to be successful? And so through my research, I found that one skill is social intelligence, meaning that person is able to quickly assess a situation, a social situation, and two, know how to handle themselves in that situation. That means that they can understand and detect when someone is upset and know how to go about handling that, or they can detect and understand when an employee is having a good day and can capitalize upon that. They know how to operate in social situations. And if they have that skill of social intelligence, they feel very comfortable on their job and in a leadership role, interacting with a variety of people, and they stay in the industry longer.
You know, as a coach, the whole subject of social intelligence is one that's very familiar to me, along with, I would say, its sibling or maybe its parent, emotional intelligence, but, social emotional intelligence. And it really is that those, and for the sake of a better word, some people don't like it, the soft skills, the communication, the relationship skills are so important to our success, especially for the management as well as for the employees, because it's not a one-way communication, it's a two-way communication to be successful. So you got the PhD. How did the books come about for you? So you've got the two books, the Red Book, and you've got the 7 Easy Ways to Show Your Employees You Care. And then you co-authored a book with Jill Woods, the RevPAR Formula. And by the way, I've got to ask you, what does the RevPAR mean, and what is the RevPAR Formula? Let's start with that.
Okay. Absolutely. Well, RevPAR, R-E-V as in Victor, P-A-R, is a very common formula within the hotel industry. It stands for revenue per available room. And it's really an indicator of financial success within the hotel industry. And the formula is actually occupancy times ADR, average daily rate. However, Jill and I found that through working many years in the industry, that if you focus solely on that measurement of performance, that you'll miss your mark completely. So we reconfigured the formula. And so for us, RevPAR is optimizing challenging circumstances plus always driving retention. And that will equal an increase in your revenue per available room. So in essence, if you really, as a manager, take care of your employees will take care of your guests, and your guests will come and stay with you often and spend more money, thereby taking care of the ownership and the operation as a whole.
Very good. And I'm curious, what are some of the challenging circumstances that you are measuring or capturing the data about?
Sure. What we did is we sent out a survey amongst our other hospitality colleagues, and they answered what were the top challenges that they were handling or had to handle in the industry. And I don't want to give away all of the good stuff. I want people to definitely take a look or read the book. But
sure.
One of the top challenges back then and still today is something as simple as uniforming, getting employees to wear a uniform, to show up ready for work in their uniform, the complete uniform. Oftentimes if it's a female and they have a tie that goes along with it, or some sort of characteristic of a uniform that they don't like, they usually leave it off. And so we tackle in the book ways to overcome that, ways to get employees to wear their uniform by focusing on them and showing them that it's actually a benefit to be able to wake up every day and not have to thumb through your closet and look for something to wear. You can put on your uniform and you can look your best in it.
And the cost of clothing yourself is definitely reasonable, because I would imagine it's the hotel operation. The owners are supplying the uniform.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. It's kind of like the airline industry. So it sure beats in my industry having to wear a suit and a tie or a sport coat and, having to swap those out periodically. So the book has been around for how long?
The RevCard formula was published in 2011. So next year we'll be celebrating our 10-year anniversary, publishing anniversary.
Okay. And now your next book, which you authored, was The 7 Easy Ways to Show Your Employees You Care. I actually love the topic of the book because in the leadership coaching realm, one of the ways to really show your employees that you value them is, celebrating. And because we don't celebrate enough. So how do you...
Absolutely.
Yeah. And how do you show your employees you care? What was in that book?
Sure. Well, let me back up and let everyone know how that particular publication came about. I remember it very vividly. It was right around Thanksgiving one year, and the Thanksgiving holiday. And I seemed to run into old colleagues, people that I had worked with, graduates that I had taught, old friends that were had worked many years in the hospitality industry. And it seemed like every single conversation ended with them saying, well, Miss Jokima, I really love my job, but I wish my boss, I wish my manager, I wish the leadership at this particular place that I work cared about us. And I just remember sitting at my kitchen table that Thanksgiving going, what am I supposed to do with that? What am I supposed to do with that information? And that's how I came up with that book. And I sat there and I call it my love letter to other managers. What I want to tell other managers about caring about their employees and how necessary that is. And so one way that people think is simple, but you'd be amazed it doesn't get done, is to simply make sure that every single day that you show up on your job, that you walk around and you give at the very least a smile to each and every employee that you have. And in those stories that my colleagues and students and graduates would tell me, they would say, I worked the whole week and never saw my boss, or, I was at work 15 hours and my manager never came around and said anything to me. And so smiling and engaging your employees on the job sounds simple, but it's not done. And so that's one of the ways that you can definitely show your employees that you care.
Jody, you would be surprised, but maybe you wouldn't be surprised, but I hear that in so many industries. And it's just, sometimes, and we're all busy. And we come into the office. Well, these days we're not even in the office. We're in our homes for the most part, unless we are essential staff. Well, a hotel these days is a part of essential operations, whether it's visitors crisscrossing the country like I was, or maybe you're helping to provide a service to the local first responders because you're trying to provide a place for them to come during their off work hours. So to minimize the travel because they've got to get back into the hospital. But in those industries, the managers, the supervisors, they go into their office, they do what they've been trained to do, but then they forget that you should be walking around. You should acknowledge the folks that are really bearing the brunt of a lot of the pressure that's out there. Doesn't matter what role you're playing or what kind of work. They're basically working pretty hard. And they, like you said, they want to know that their manager or their supervisor cares. And what are some of the other ways that, if you wouldn't mind sharing them, maybe one or two more, because like you said, we want people to buy the book.
Well, I'm going to share with you one of my favorite ones.
Okay.
Growing up in the industry, unfortunately, you learn oftentimes what not to do. And so I remember as a young hospitality professional saying to myself, when I get older and I have my own department or I have my own hotel, this is what I'm going to do. And so when I first became a general manager of a hotel, I got a chance to kind of put some of my own techniques to play to see if they would work or if I was completely off the mark. And this one seemed to stick. It's called 15 Minutes of Love. Okay, 15 minutes of love. And so what it is that I guarantee each and every employee that the first 15 minutes on their job will be filled with love. Because once they go to, if they're a housekeeper, once they step into housekeeping and they see the rooms that they have to clean for the day, who knows what those rooms are going to look like. I can't guarantee that things are going to be okay at that point. You know, if it's the maintenance person, I can't guarantee that once they step into their office and see the load of work they have to do for the day, that things are going to be good. But the first 15 minutes, I can shower them with love, or another way of saying it is 15 minutes of happiness. I can make sure that that first 15 minutes of their day is filled with happiness to sort of really prepare them for the rest of their day. So some of the things that I would do in our break room is right above when they would clock in, if you will, or however employees are, letting you know that they are on the job, there would be a joke of the day or joke of the week. The break room would be filled with a lot of things that they enjoyed drinking, such as coffee, but it would be the premium coffee. It would be a variety of cream. Just imagine being able to get your favorite cup of coffee with hazelnut cream in the morning. That's my favorite. So I would make sure that they would have those options. It would be, the bulletin boards would be decorated. It would include recognition. We were always having something in there as well to eat, whether it was, a breakfast roll or donuts, or if it were, dinner on a holiday, or we were always buying pizza, all sorts of things, just to make sure that whatever time they clocked in for the day, I really pumped them up and made that first 15 minutes on their job the happiest it could be by showering them with a little bit of Jokima love.
Fantastic. And I'm curious too, Jody, in my industries, we do a lot of huddles with our teams. Did you have huddles where everybody was together, or was it more one-on-one to supplement what the employee room was or break room was like, with the board, the food, the decorations? Did you also do huddles or one-on-ones, to start that day as well?
Yes, we call them pre-shifts. So right before their shift would begin, we would have a huddle, if you will, where we share with them information about the hotel. So, for example, how many check-ins, how many guests would be checking in, how many rooms total needed to be cleaned, how many guests would be checking out that morning, really kind of give them an overview of the day of, a snapshot of what was happening, as well as, sometimes included in there might be a quote to really kind of, say, I care, listen to this. This is the kind of day that I would like for you to have.
Excellent. Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about your latest book. I mean, it was just a couple years old, so it's still relatively new. The Red Book. Tell us about that.
Yes, the Red Book, which I also did co-author with Jill Wood. So we have two books together, the Red Par Formula and then the Red Book. Okay. And we're currently working on the follow-up to the Red Book. So look for that hopefully by the end of this year. But
excellent. Okay.
The Red Book, in just talking about the industry as a whole, was challenged by recent graduates who are saying today that they don't want to have to pay their dues. They want to be able to come out of college with some experience and go right for the big job. They want to be the general manager of a hotel. And so,
oh my God, that is not unique to your industry, by the way. I'm here to tell you that it's not unique.
So we take a young man named Jackson. He's the character, and we follow him for his first year as the general manager of a hotel. And what makes this particular book so special, so unique, is that every single challenge that Jackson encounters are actually true experiences that Jill and I have either had together working in the industry or separately in our journey throughout the industry. So it's so fun to have people read it and go, oh my goodness, who did this happen to? Or you need to tell me the full story about this one. So it's delightful to have people engaged in it, knowing that these are definitely true stories.
Very good. One thing that dawns on me that this book that you've authored and have worked on with Jill is really can extend to other very hands-on, human-focused activities. So that's not just, the hospitality industry.
We tell people that if you no matter what industry you work in, or if you don't work at all, if you just want a good story, it is exciting to get to know Jackson and to see what all he encounters in his first year. So if you're a mom, you're thinking, oh, Jackson, oh my goodness, I wish I could help you, on this journey. If you are, if you are a brother, you're looking at it going, man, I wish I could show up and help you, because he surely encounters a lot, and it puts his education and the experience that he has to the test.
Right. And, it's so important as supervisors and managers when we are interviewing, and perhaps even during the, while they're getting the education, is to provide, what is going to be a realistic path, that you're not going to come right out of school with a bachelor's or a master's degree, et cetera, and all of a sudden be, take on a general management role. I mean, you have to learn from people who have gone down that path before. Jody, I'm very interested in two aspects as we continue this conversation. One is, as I was preparing for our interview and I was looking at your social pages, your show authors page on Amazon, I noticed that you willingly shared that you have a disability, and I'll leave it to you to make the decision whether you want to share it or not. But how have you seen the industry evolve as it has learned to accommodate, oftentimes being required to accommodate individuals with disabilities, either as the employee and as the guest in the property?
Sure. I love that question. Thank you so very much for asking it. Yes, just about 5 years ago, it will be 5 years this coming August, actually. So next month, I am a right leg above the knee amputee. So that means that my right leg was cut above the knee, so I don't have a knee. And it truly has been a challenge. It impacts every aspect of my life. I tell my students, so that they can fully understand the challenges that I have, that going to the restroom is even a thought out plan that I walk through literally in my head to make sure that I'm not found in the bathroom with my pants down around my legs hurt. You really have to think through everything that you do. And I usually have a prosthesis, and her name is Sassy Sabrina. And so together, we have really tried to get to what everyone calls a new normal. But it has been challenging. And I will say that as an employee growing up in the industry, I remember there not being many options for my guests with disabilities. The industry as a whole provided what I would call the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act minimum. And legally, that was fine. They've got a ramp outside so that you can get in. They've got the handlebars next to the toilet for the restroom. But today, we have options, so when I make a reservation, I'm asked, well, what type of accessible room do I need? Do I want the room with the tub with the shower bench? Or do I want the room with the roll-in shower? And that's fascinating, especially since this year ADA is celebrating 30 years. So I think that would be the significant difference from my standpoint, is that as an employee, it was really difficult because it was like, this is all we have. And, there wasn't a way to convert a room quickly from being a regular or standard room to an accessible one. But today, owners are really thinking about their offerings for those who are in a wheelchair or hearing impaired, and they have options today, which is great. And I always want to challenge our industry owners just a little bit more and think, even outside of ADA. So you've met the standard, but I want to be comfortable too. So think outside of the standard and what else can be done to make sure that when I'm in that guest room, I'm actually enjoying myself, that I'm actually comfortable. And so sometimes that means you need to include us in the decision process when you are developing the hotel.
And I would think that if a hotel organization is really looking to elevate their brand, taking account of those types of scenarios is actually very much in their best interest rather than doing just the minimum. I am curious, though, are you seeing that hotel organizations are being are accommodating or increasingly accommodating to potential new employees that perhaps have a disability? And it could be similar to yours, could be hearing impairment, visual impairment, maybe even some, certain kinds of mental illnesses for that matter. Do you see there's more accommodation going on than there was in the past?
Yes, there is, especially within the hotel industry. And that's because we are, I would say, in my opinion, probably the most diverse industry in the world. Our guests want to see employees interacting with them that also have disabilities. So the industry has really opened up in actively seeking, and this is what makes the difference from a top-notch organization and not so much a top-notch organization, is that an organization will actively seek people that are diverse to come and work for them.
Okay. So I am very curious too, and I appreciate you talking about the disabilities and where we're at today, your experience. And so now we are in the age of the COVID-19 pandemic. So we are right in the middle, depending on where we live. It's some areas it's more critical than others. How have you essentially addressed the changing needs and requirements for the properties, the ownership, the staffing, even the accommodating of guests in the age of COVID-19? And do you see some of these responses essentially being with us, or do you see it, very slowly? I don't know, maybe we're going to be back to normal in a year, 2 years, whatever. But how do you see us evolving, or this industry evolving because of the COVID-19?
Well, it's happening, and I see the industry adapting, and they are adapting to, the word that's out there is a new normal. And so I think that they are preparing for an extended response to COVID-19. And I have been truly impressed. We've had some hotels within the industry that have had to close in order to, kind of cut their losses, which I truly understand. But then there are some hotels that have really been creative and have really stuck it out. Growing up in the industry, to say that I have day rates was not a good thing, but I've seen hotels turn that to say, hey, you are working from home because of the virus. Come here to the hotel and rent the room for a few hours, while you have your Zoom meeting, or while, you have your networking meeting online, or whatever it is, that job that you have to do. You can rent out our rooms and have quiet time, in that room for those few hours. And so their cleanliness standards, I will say, we have had to go back to the basics. meaning, the two top things that every hotel is offering today is cleanliness and friendliness. We're going to treat you right and make sure that you have a clean environment once you get here. And so now is probably the best time to be staying in a property because they want to take care of you and they're going to take care of the cleanliness of the hotel as a whole as well.
I have to share is I have recently relocated from Chicago to Las Vegas, and I had sold my house, and I had about a week before I could physically start to make a move. And it wasn't a move that I could get on an airplane and just go from Chicago to Las Vegas. I had to stay in a hotel. I stayed in a hotel property not far from where I lived for the whole purpose of being able to work that week so that on Friday I could get in my car and start the journey. When I got to St. Louis, the hotel was open. There is services like the restaurant was closed. There was no food amenities, but I had a clean room. I had an internet connection, and I was a very happy camper.
Yes.
Oklahoma City was different because I had friends I stayed with, but then I ended up in Albuquerque and Santa Fe again, because of the schedule and when I do my coaching work, I needed a place to stay for 4 days. So the hotel in Santa Fe, that was my base of operation that I can continue to work. And again, the beauty there is they actually delivered food to your room. The restaurant was not open, but they had room service. So that was wonderful. And then, here in Las Vegas, then I ended up, in renting an apartment. I'll tell you, if not for the hospitality industry, I don't know how I would have gotten to Las Vegas outside of getting on an airplane. And some airlines are doing much better than others and addressing the safety concerns. So really, I have to applaud the hospitality industry and the properties that I stayed at. They did a great job.
Yay.
So now you said you are in the midst of authoring another book with Jill Woods. When you're not involved in the teaching, the writing, the workshops, etc., what do you do for fun?
Sure. Well, I am working on a life goal of being the best aunt in the world.
Oh boy.
And so I have 3 nephews, a niece, a goddaughter, and a host of other children that have been calling me Auntie Jody throughout my life. And so it is my life goal to be the best aunt that they ever had.
Fair enough. Fantastic. And one last question, and often we'll ask this of our guests. We call it an insight to go. If there are individuals that are interested in the hospitality industry, want some insights, in addition to your books, obviously, what advice would you give them about this industry and making it a career, a very successful career like you have done?
Sure. I've got 2 pieces of advice that I share with my students all the time and that I love to tell prospective employees, managers, supervisors in the industry. The first one is you have to love people. There's no way around it. You interact with people, whether they're your coworkers or they're your supervisor or your employees. Then you have your guests, you have vendors, you have your ownership group. You might be managed by a management company. You interact with people every single day. And at the base of what you do, there has to be a genuine love for people. And so I have literally had interviews where I'm looking for someone within a particular industry or a particular department. And they'll say, well, put me where I don't have to deal with people. That does not exist in the hospitality industry.
No, it does not.
It does not. So that would be my first piece of advice or suggestion is that if you want to have a sustainable career in the hospitality industry, you really do need to love people. The second thing is practice. Practice your craft. And what I mean by that is if you aspire to be an executive housekeeper of a luxury hotel, practice what that means. Meaning, get up every day and make your bed. Make sure you fluff your pillows. Make sure that you have hospital corners. Make it look like the bed of someone who would be making the bed in a luxury hotel. If you aspire to be on the restaurant side and you want to be, a chef, get you a few cartons of eggs, practice making, omelets or making the best boiled egg or, flipping the egg, whatever it takes, but get some practice in and add that to your resume. In the beginning, that was all I had was my practice to share with people. Yes, on a daily basis, this is what I do at home. And the fact that you're experiencing it, that you're not, wasting time, that you are about being prepared for the next opportunity. Employers look at that. They really do.
That is fantastic. I love that. Love for your people, love for people, and then practicing your craft, and even in the smallest ways. And I'll tell you, I would get dinged because of the bed and the fluffy pillows. But okay, I think I got yelled at too much by my mom growing up. Just make your bed, Howard.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, very much. So, Jody, if our listeners would like to learn more about you and your work, where are the best places for them to go?
Sure. Well, first, if you forget where I'm going to send you, all you really need to do is go to Google and type in Jokima Hiller, Jokima, Hiller, Hiller. And I promise you'll find me. But I would love for you to go to our Facebook page, which is BET, B-E-T, on hospitality. And BET stands for book writing, educating, and training. And so there you can keep up with what Jill Woods and I are doing in the industry and for the industry.
Fantastic. Well, we will most definitely provide the backlinks to your Facebook page and also the author page on Amazon, so that if our listeners are interested in picking up a copy of one of the 3 books and perhaps your 4th book, they have a place to learn more about you and the books and, make a purchasing decision. Jody, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast. I really appreciate not only you sharing your experience, but also quite literally your experience, as well as, your insights and how the industry is responding to the COVID-19 pandemic crisis. So thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the Success Insight podcast.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, folks, we have just been chatting with Dr. Jokima Hiller. She is the co-author of the Red Book, Notes from a First-Year General Manager with Jill Woods, and they also co-authored the RevPAR Formula. And then there's also Jokima's book, 7 Easy Ways to Show Your Employees You Care. What a really fascinating conversation today. And, it's so easy to take for granted, those who are on the front lines providing customer service, and whether it's at the front desk, at the back of the house in the kitchen, or I don't know if you call it in the house, the cleaning of the rooms, the security, taking care to make us safe and comfortable. And, I think it's so easy to take folks for granted. And, really, when you're walking down the hallway at the front, where you're going to the front desk, as customers, we should be smiling as well. We should be thanking the staff for being there and taking care of us and making us safe. And I really love that, the passion that Jody has shared with us about her work in the hospitality industry. So do go out to her Facebook page, which we will provide a backlink to on our show notes. And we'll also provide backlink to the Amazon author page for Jokima as well. And once again, folks, if you enjoyed the podcast, do let us know if you've got any comments, thoughts, I know I would love to hear them. Jody would like to hear those as well to this podcast and all of our other guests in their respective podcasts as well. You can visit us on successinsightpodcast.com. We're also on LinkedIn and Facebook, Success Insight Podcast, as well as YouTube, if you just search for Success Insight Podcast, and the podcast channels, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcast, and Apple Podcast. All right, folks, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, go out there, have a phenomenal day, stay safe, take care of yourselves, take care of your family, and be courteous to others. We are still in the midst of this very serious pandemic, and the point is we need to take this seriously. And so be safe, but above all, go out there, have a phenomenal day, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Success Insight Podcast. Take care now.
Success Insight is a production of Fox Coaching and First Story Strategies. Find us online, successinsightpodcast.com.